Hey guys, Chris here, and I'm a Ukrainian Canadian. Today's April 16th, 2023, and let's get to the news happening in Ukraine, shall we? First of all, happy Orthodox Easter to all of you who celebrate Orthodox Easter. That includes myself, and it's a very special and important holiday for all Ukrainians, for many Ukrainians. So if you're celebrating it, I wish you the best for today. May it be joyful. Second, I'm a little bit sick. I've been sick for the last couple of days, so I apologize if my voice is not my regular voice, but I still thought it would be good to make a video today for the updates that are ongoing in Donbass. Now, I am going to cover just Bakhmut because the Russians for the past week have not made any serious advancements anywhere else but in Bakhmut. And so as you can see here, the Ukrainians unfortunately only control about 15 to 20% of the city at this point. It's really now the western half of the city that is now under siege by the Russians, and the eastern side of Bakhmut has been completely captured. Let's take a look at the map so we can visualize. And so on the map, you can see that essentially this is as of April 12th, so a couple of days ago, and the Russians have captured a massive amount of territory here in central Bakhmut. And really, at this point, where the fighting is ongoing is by the railway line that kind of cuts the city in half. And you can see that in the last couple of days, the Russians managed to capture the train station that is really in the center of Bakhmut, and they continue on pushing every day. Slowly but surely they get more and more ground. Now the Ukrainian tactic so far, I've seen many videos last couple of days where the Ukrainian forces are blowing up buildings where Russians set up command and control posts within these high-rise buildings, and they just blow them up. So they rig them with explosives, and then they just destroy them. And obviously, there's a lot of them in central Bakhmut, so it's a win-win situation for the Ukrainians because either way, these buildings have been destroyed to the point that you're going to have to destroy them after the end of this war. So you get to also destroy and eliminate the Wagner forces within them. So it's a good tactic. Also, the Russians are doing terrible in street combat. The only reason why they're advancing is obviously because of the manpower advantage that they have, and they can continue on storming dozens of troops and squads and companies every day on different fronts. You can see that they're pushing on all sides where the Ukrainians are currently holding. So this is about 15 to 20% now at this point, if not less, of the city. So I'm expecting, to be very honest with you, that within the month of May, that the Ukrainians will have to retreat. They'll have to pull out of the city because the Russians will capture Bakhmut within May. I think that's pretty clear, unless, of course, there's going to be an offensive here, which I doubt is going to happen at this point. And I did mention, it was my wishful thinking last week that the Ukrainian forces should do counteroffensive here if they're planning on doing their major counteroffensive in around May, and they should also include Bakhmut, but that's very emotional. It's a very emotional decision, and of course, if the general staff doesn't think it's a good idea, then I fully support because I'm not a general, and we're gonna have to stand by what the Ukrainian armed forces and their generals and their commanders believe is best. So I cannot wait for this counteroffensive to happen. And every day gives me more and more confidence because, guys, for the past week, this is the only serious front where the Russians have been able to push. This is the limits. The Russians have reached the limits of where they can push. This is what they've been fighting for months, and we haven't seen anything else really develop for the last couple months. They've tried it in Vuhledar, they have failed here. They're also trying to push around Avdiivka with very, very limited success. They've also tried to push around Kremina, the same thing, limited success. Nothing really crazy happened here for the last couple months as well. So this is the limit of what the Russians were able to do, with everybody saying that just wait, the Russians are going to do their massive offensive in the winter or in the spring, and that's it for the Ukrainian forces. Well, that's the only thing they were able to do is They will eventually, in my opinion, capture Bakhmut, but that's it. After that, it's just going to be small little territorial gains for the Russians, maybe, but that's going to fall in line with the Ukrainian counteroffensive, and so their capture of Bakhmut is not going to last for long. That is 100%. So that's it. Really, there's not that much that happened for the last week around Bakhmut. The Russians also, yesterday, shelled Slovyansk. Some civilians died, unfortunately. And that's what the Russians will continue doing. They will continue terrorizing the Ukrainian population, whether they be in Donbass and or in Kiev or Lviv in Western Ukraine. But if there's one thing I noticed for the last couple of weeks is that the Russians have stopped doing their massive airstrike attacks, like we saw many months ago, where on a daily basis they would attack Kharkiv or different cities, Dnipro, Kyiv, Lviv, Zaporizhia. Now they're very localized if they do them, and it's not a massive airstrike attack over multiple cities in Ukraine. And I think that's just because the Russians are depleted; they don't have the capacity, or they don't want to spend their munitions on non-military targets because they realize it's a waste of ammunition, and it didn't work to actually terrorize the population and make them force Zelensky to sign a peace treaty with the Russians. And they failed largely with their expectation that by hitting critical electrical infrastructure, the power grid of the Ukrainian government, that the population would be freezing to death and they would be begging for mercy. That also didn't work out. So their entire strategy has failed. So the counteroffensive, in my opinion, is going to be successful. And another thing that proves this is, and that's going to be my next slide, is Prigozhin. Prigozhin said a very interesting statement yesterday or 2 days ago. And essentially, he said that for the authorities and for society as a whole, Today, it is necessary to put some kind of bullet point in a special military operation. The ideal option is to announce the end of the SMO, to inform everyone that Russia has achieved the results that it planned. And in a sense, we have actually achieved them, right? By killing 200,000 of our Russian soldiers, if not more, wounding perhaps even triple that amount, and destroying a whole generation of Russian men, essentially. We have ground a huge number of fighters of the armed forces of Ukraine, and we can report to ourselves that the tasks of the SMO have been completed. So this is obviously a good indication of Russia hitting its limits of its combat capacity. They're going to be on the defensive very soon, and they're panicking because they see that the Ukrainians have been preparing, and whatever the leak. You guys heard about the leak that happened many weeks ago. Now they found the culprit, which was a CIA agent, and people were afraid that this is going to throw away the Ukrainian plans of counteroffensive. Well, in those leaks, there was nothing that compromised the Ukrainians, right? It was mostly things that we already knew. If not, it could be even things that are not accurate as well. So I'm very confident that this counteroffensive is going to be successful. Now, what's interesting as well is that Prigozhin sees himself as the next, I think, kin after Putin, and one of the few people I actually think in Russia that could potentially seize power in the Kremlin. Now, the reason why is because he's very independent in the sense that he doesn't report to Putin directly, although he does to a certain extent, but you've seen him kind of go more on the side and start criticizing, Gerasimov, Shoigu, the Russian MOD, for not giving him the weapons and the support necessary to capture Bakhmut and other territories in Ukraine. And so he's very independent, and he kind of sees himself as this potential force that could come to the Kremlin. Now, I don't see that being something that could happen, but I think Putin is aware of that, and that's why he's been trying to reduce his influence. And it could be also the reason why, 2 or 3 weeks ago, the event that happened in St. Petersburg with the military blogger that was assassinated through a bomb in one of Prigozhin's restaurants, maybe it could have been a message from Putin or his circle saying to Prigozhin to back off. Anyways, he sees himself also, I think, as the voice for a growing Russian population that is discontent with the way that things are going right now in Ukraine. They want to end the war. And we're seeing more and more of this discontent through the military bloggers like Girkin, as I've shown you many videos of his constant criticism. Uh, you know, Prigozhin himself. There's many other military bloggers. Tatarsky, the man that was killed in the St. Petersburg restaurant, and many other are very critical now of the leadership and how they've been conducting this special military operation. However, we shouldn't be fooled that the Russians, want to end this war because they've realized how much of a mistake this was, and they realize it's their fault, and they should never have started this war against their brothers. Right? It's nothing about the good intentions of the Russians. It's all about the fact that they don't want to completely lose this war and be completely stripped of their pride that they believed existed. Right? The strong Russian army, the second best in the world, the largest. Right? We need to be respected. And now they're seeing that the whole world is laughing at them, and they want to, save whatever pride is left from this, special military operation and from their sense of being Russian. So we should not be fooled by that. There's no good intentions within the Russian society. And the last point I want to say is that once Ukraine will win this war, and I'm very confident that the Russian revanchism is going to be a big problem, because whether you like it or not, Russia will continue to exist and it will be Ukraine's neighbor. And so we're going to need to figure out a way of dealing with that, right? The Russian people will not accept, in my opinion, the terms of repaying Ukraine, although they will be forced to, and I think that's the way to go. And they should be forced to repay all the destruction that they have committed and the crimes they've committed in Ukraine. That includes rebuilding the cities, the infrastructure, paying off reparations. But there's definitely going to be a sense of anger, of revenge that the Russians will want to do, just like the Germans did after World War One, right, which caused World War Two. So we're going to need to figure out a way to sort of bridge this and sort of make the Russians understand that this is what they deserve. I diverted from the main topic, but I think it's definitely going to be a major issue once Ukraine wins the war, and we're going to need to figure it out. Now, the last video here, it's an interception, Russian interception. So it's an interception of Russian communications that reveal the commanders essentially ordering to shoot their own retreating troops. Now, this could be fabricated, but guys, would you be surprised if that was actually the truth? Really? I'm going to read it out to you because there's the translation at the bottom. Whoever retreats, order to group commanders. Kill. Guys, we're not retreating. We're only moving forward. Or we will die. So choose for yourself how you want to live. Either we live or rot in the grave. How do you copy? Well, it doesn't seem like advancing is an option, or advancing would make you be alive, because the Ukrainians are just mowing down on these infantry waves. And so the Russians seem to be very okay with this philosophy that's very present in their lives of the beatings will continue until the morale improves. So you can see that I'm not surprised if this is the actual truth. It could be fabricated, but I thought it would be interesting to share it with you. So let me know what you think about this video. Do you think that this is actually happening? I think so, but I'll be interested to see what you guys think. So this is my quick update for today. If you guys enjoy my channel, please subscribe to my channel, like the video, and leave me a comment. Thank you so much, guys, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.